January 22nd, and Pam Marisa is going to talk about the history of the Denny House. So that's a Waynesburg landmark, and I think she'll have some stories to tell about that. So without further ado, I'm going to let Mr. Rush go ahead and do a little bit of show and tell for us.
Do you want him to turn the lights off first?
Huh?
Do you want him to turn the lights off first?
I don't know.
Well, there's a switch right over here, I believe. Yeah, there's.
He brought something to show, and it has to be dark.
Well, yeah.
And
I think I can make this work. I need to hold on.
I'll hold that.
Here a second. Okay, and then I'll tell you what it is.
All
Oh,
right.
you can turn the light back.
Okay.
He wanted to show us for. This is our earliest mine line.
Wow.
Yeah, well, these were probably earlier, about the same time. This is called a Betty lamp. It was used in Wales, France, Germany, Belgium, back in the late 1700s, early 1800s. And it simply had a wick here, and it burned whale's oil. And they would take it in the mine, had a spike where they could put it in a wooden post or whatever. It was an open flame light, and the farther they got back in the mine when they first started in, the gas wasn't too bad, but once you got back in there and the ventilation wasn't good, gas would accumulate. And open flame like that, put in gas, that's why the mines exploded. Then if there was coal dust on top of it, that made the explosion just twice as bad, because the initial explosion picked that up, and then the coal dust would explode. For all you youngsters, when you used to throw coal in the pot-bellied stove and it had some dust in it, go whoosh. You can imagine that on a large scale underground in a confined place. And a guy by the name of Spedding over in England invented this, and it's called a Spedding steel mill. And a coal miner with a young boy, 10, 12 years old, crawled back into mines in Wales and France, Belgium, and his job was to make sparks for the coal miner to mine coal by. The theory being that methane has an ignition temperature, and only ignited a certain temperature, like 1,000 degrees. I forget what the range is, but there's a range to it. And the theory being that this spark wasn't hot enough to ignite it. Well, sometimes if there was an imperfection in the piece of flint, could create a hotter spark. Same results, you had a major explosion and things. A couple from California went over to England, and the museum over there gave them permission to take all the measurements and stuff. This is a reproduction. The only ones of these are in museums in England, and they only know about 10 of them. So these guys in California reproduced this to detail. I bought this almost 30 years ago.
So would it have been that size as well?
Yeah, this is actual size and stuff that it was, and really the boy would have to drop the flint. He would have it on his leg like this and crank it to make the sparks. And so this one is number 59 of 100. There's only 100 of them produced. It took them over a year to reproduce it and to sell them. And I just got into the collecting where I was spending money. And so I bought one. So what I'm trying to show is a progression of mine lighting and things from the earliest. The next thing they got was a sunshine lamp. And a lot of the sunshine lamps like this one was made in Monongahela by the Anton brothers. And this would have been the type of hat that coal miners wore around 1800. Of course, some of them wore them up into the 1940s, 1950 before they'd wear hard hats and things. But the sunshine lamp, it burned sunshine oil. This is one of the rarest pieces I have. This is a little bottle of sunshine oil. And it came, this little bottle, a guy found a tin tub about the size of a gallon of paint, marked sunshine oil, and to maximize his profit, he took and broke it all up in little bottles like this and sold the bottles for like $5 a bottle back then. But I went to an auction in Cadiz, Ohio, and there was a box there, and in the box was carbide, which would be the next lamp. And that carbide had got moisture, and when it's moisture, it makes acetylene. Well, that can had exploded. And that whole box was like white powder. But there was a couple sunshine lamps in there, a carbide light, there was something else. And I didn't see this sunshine oil, it was underneath the powder. So I started bidding on it, and the guy kept bidding. And finally I bid $100, and I thought, that's it. He bids, he can have it, and he passed. So afterwards he came over and he said, what was you bidding on, that sunshine oil? And I said, oh my. So when I cleaned the box out, I found 3 cakes of this sunshine oil. It's made,
Can you read?
Atlantic Refining Company made this. And that's what this is here, sunshine oil. Sunshine oil is a mixture of paraffin and mineral oil. And it would burn in these lights. It was less smoky than an open flame, and it would burn longer with the sunshine lamps. The next thing that they used back in the time frame was a hand-forged candlestick that blacksmiths made these, and you would have it hung on your cap light like this light is, with an open flame. And I often wonder, all those football players with that long hair, how good would they do with that flame on their hat? There'd probably be an explosion. And same way with this. This was a open flame hanging on your hat. This one is a special one I got. I came home from work one day, and there was a miner's pit belt on the belt, a hat, something else, and some guy had dropped it off, and she said, oh, there's more. So I go in on the kitchen counter, and there was this sunshine lamp. What's special about this sunshine lamp, I'm going to have to glue my stickers back on. What's special about this sunshine lamp is it's aluminum, cast aluminum, has patent applied for on it. And when aluminum was discovered in Pittsburgh around the turn of the century, it was more valuable than gold. So anything made out of aluminum was valuable. So that makes for the rarity of it. I don't know what I did with the other one I had. Anyhow, I have another aluminum one like this. The guy that dropped the pit belt and the hat off had dropped off this aluminum, and it had like a blob top up here. And I says, oh man, he lived over in Sharp Neck Hollow. His name was Jim Fisher, but the light had belonged to Fred Fisher, his dad. His dad started in the mine in Pittsburgh under Mount Washington, where the incline is, when he came over to this country. And he progressed along north along the Monongahela River to all the towns till he finally ended up over in Mather. And he worked at Mather Mine. So when Fred had passed away, and Jim actually worked for the Army Corps of Engineers, and my daughter and my son went summers at the Army Corps of Engineers when they went to college, and he also was a friend of my father-in-law's grouse hunting. So that's why he gave me all the stuff that was there. But that was one of the rarest pieces.
The other one's right there, beside.
Huh?
The other one's right there.
Oh yeah, here's the one with the blob top. I didn't set it over there. See, it's different. This is the one he actually gave me. And what was really particular about these, several people have this, and it says patent applied for. This says patented AL. And everybody said, well, that's the initials of the guy that owns it. No, it's not. It's patented aluminum. AL is the symbol for aluminum. So that's where I got this lamp. After these hats, then they brought what this is called a turtle shell hat, because it resembles a turtle, I guess. This is a rare item too, because it's brown in color. Most of them are all black in color. I've only seen 3 or 4 brown ones. And some guy traded me out of some stuff to get this one. The next thing after the sunshine lamps came, they still had open flames, carbide lights. And of course, most of us grew up with carbide lights, fishing or out coon hunting at night and things, using this carbide. The bottom of the container held carbide, the top of it held water, and there's an adjustment here where you could let the water drip slow. That created a settling gas, and when you struck this sparker, you were actually burning methane gas. Of course, that wasn't very safe.
No.
Any of these items wasn't very safe at the time. So that's when they invented the mine safety lamp. The mine safety lamp is used to detect methane or oxygen deficiency. And it has a flame that's confined inside the lamp. There's 2 double screens inside the lamp. And it has a striker here, you can strike it. I don't have no fuel, so it won't light. But methane is lighter than air. It's 0.555 with air being 1. And you would hold it up to the ceiling in the mine, and the law said 1 foot from the face, 1 foot from the rim, 1 foot from the top to detect gas. So if you're holding it up there and it detects gas, normally you'd have the tip of the flame on the bottom ring. And if it started to burn gas, it would climb up to the second ring. That'll be 1%. If it went to the next ring, that's 2. And at that time, you got to get some air in there and move the methane out, because methane is explosive between 5 and 15%. It will create an explosion. Below that or above that, it'll burn, but it won't explode. And for years down at the coal show, they bring in a tractor trailer, and it had a paper top to it. And along about 9 o'clock at night and things, they filled that with a certain amount of methane, and they ignited it, and it'll blow the back door off, open on the trailer, and blow that paper up in the air, and they demonstrated what a mine explosion would look like. They don't do that anymore. They used to do that quite a bit then they had smaller explosion box, and even when I took a test, they had a huge glass, and I have one of them in my collection, globe, and they had different gases that they could put into that globe. In order to pass a boss's test and stuff, you had to identify what it was. So you would put the lamp up inside the globe and you would watch it, and if you saw the flame going up and you thought it was gas, you'd hold it there a little bit, and if the flame went out, what did that mean? Oxygen deficiency. No oxygen, no flame. So that's how it detected oxygen deficiency. But if the flame kept getting brighter and bluer, that's the higher content of methane. This is the greatest safety device they ever made for the miner and stuff, because it eliminated all these open flames here. You could test, and then they came up with the electric tailpipe and things. This is a canary cage. They took canaries into mines. And when I ask people, well, what's a canary do? Oh, it detects gas. Well, it can't detect gas because methane is colorless, odorless, and tasteless. So if I can't connect it, he can't. But he did detect gas. What he detected was oxygen deficiency. Of course, it could be oxygen deficiency because of methane or CO or CO2, whatever. But a canary requires 17% oxygen. It's 21% oxygen in the air that you and I breathe. So when you took the canary in and he sat there, if he fell off the perch, you knew the oxygen was below 17%.
You better run.
But 17%, you can work. You might not get a lot done, but you can work. At 15%, at 12%, you can sit there. At 7%, you can last quite a while. So that's the purpose of when they took the canaries in. It wasn't foolproof either, because sometimes if you took a young canary in there and you were up in your 60s and you were a coal miner and you already had black lung and you didn't breathe so good, it might not really tell you what you needed to know. So that's most of the articles that I brought.
Didn't tell them about the picture.
Yeah. I brought this. This is one of, since everybody already knows me, practically everybody, you know, I've been going to auctions forever and stuff with my mother back in the 50s and stuff. This is one of the earliest pizzas I bought, but I was really excited when I saw it, and it was an auction here in Franklin Township along 10 Mile Creek in 1857. And the reason I bought it is because they sold a coal bank. Dawn knows what a coal bank is, and Blind knows what it is. It's all these little hill mines throughout Greene County.
Oh.
And
Surface mines? Were they surface mines?
what's that?
Were they surface mines?
No, it was a little mine that they dug house coal and coal for blacksmiths and stuff,
Okay.
and it cropped out along 10 Mile Creek, along Monongahela River, down in Vesta today. You can see, if you turn up into Vesta, you can see the coal seam and
If
things.
you go into
And,
Homeville,
Yeah, over at Homeville.
you can
Yeah.
see where they've dug back into the hillside.
Yeah, over at Homeville, my uncle just passed away a week or so ago, 95 years old. And when he came back from Korea, him and my uncle Jim started on Bob Crane's property. My uncle Jim made a deal with Bob Crane, and the coal had outcropped right there in Homeville where the two log houses are in that intersection. and things, and you can probably, if you went up there and kicked around, you'd see the slag pile yet today and stuff. But when my Uncle Jim first went over and made the deal, he drilled some holes in and loaded it up with shot, but he didn't know what he was doing. And when he put the shot off, it blew the coal across the road and stuff. So he had a heck of a time getting started, but then when my Uncle John came, he was familiar with explosives, and the two of them they worked at. My granddad lived on the other side of Love's Hill, where the corn crib is that has the American flag, and he would drive his horse team up over the hill to Homeville, and they would load the wagon with coal and haul for that mine. So they worked there for a good while, and then my Uncle Jim got married and moved to West Virginia. But Uncle John was still around, and who knows where the county coal mine is? You know where the county coal mine is? Dawn should know where the county coal mine is.
The one over,
Where they loaded house coal and stuff?
yeah, where Montgomery's, near Montgomery.
Montgomery's.
Yeah.
Yeah, Montgomery.
Yeah,
He rented it off the county. If you go out past Rolling Meadows,
Okay.
and when you get out now, you have to make a 90-degree turn across. Well, the road used to go straight on up around the airport before they put the bypass in, back when I was a kid and stuff. And that was the county coal mine. They actually mined coal underneath Walmart. And they had several entries back in there, and they were back in far enough they even had a ventilation fan to ventilate it. So my uncle worked there for a long time. And later on he went to another hill mine and stuff over by Bobtown, owned by Mike Mulliner. And one weekend Mike actually was killed in the mine. They were in there working on a bad area, and he was an older man, and a couple guys was working. He was sitting there, and he saw the move, and he yelled, and it crushed him and broke one guy's leg, and the other guy survived. But my Uncle John had to help recover him and stuff. And my cousin Fred Carter, later on, Petites bought that mine. So there's a lot of little hill mines throughout Greene County. I call them hill mines. A lot of people call them coal banks. But they'd go in and that seam of coal around here, they normally call Waynesburg seam of coal. Sometimes it can be the Pittsburgh seam of coal that crops out, like down at Vesta. Over around Mapletown, Black Shears Hollow had a mine there, and they call that the Mapletown seam of coal. And then there's a Sewickley seam of coal. So wherever you're at, the seams of coal get a lot of different names to them. So that's mostly my local stories. I started in the mine at Frosty Run in 1969. When I was a junior in high school, the Frosty Run mine exploded and killed 37 coal miners. And that's why the monument is up at the Welcome Center on 79. Those coal miners, several of them actually died right below where the Welcome Center is. That's where they were mining the coal at the time. Some of them died a mile away from the concussion that were hauling coal or working back away from it. And every December 6th, there's another monument over by the Hatfield Power Plant on the hill. And every year we meet over there. Father Rodney shows up and he does the services, and Father Rodney gave him my name, that's why I'm here today. I rode to Alabama with Father Rodney, wherever he's a member of our UMWA local, and wherever we go picket or we help the teachers strike in West Virginia, he comes, does all the services. He's quite an intelligent man. He brought both his grandsons to the one grandson now finished college, and he actually works for a company that's way over 100 years old called Mine Safety Appliance Company in Pittsburgh. And they produce a lot of the safety devices and stuff that are used in mines and other industries. So he's all excited about his grandson working down there and things.
So Brice, when did electric lamps become common in the mines then?
Well, they had electric mine motors back around 1900 and stuff, and electric.
He's talking about the lamp on your
Oh, the
dash.
lamp up here. These lamps probably came in between 1900 1910.
Okay.
But still, most of the little hill mines classified in the state of Pennsylvania were classified non-gassy because there was an outcrop, and it seems like the coal didn't maintain the gas over time. Now, when you get down 400, 500, 600 feet deep or so, then there's more gas and more buildup and things. So nowadays, though, all mines are declared gassy. But back then, where a lot of the farmers, they cleared a little dirt out and found the coal seam. That was their house coal. They dug their own. The house below where I live, now I don't know if this is true or not, but they said the guy had the coal uncovered in his basement that he could just go in and bring it out. Now, behind my house, and it was on my property when I bought the property, which would have been where he would have mined, there's actually a hill mine entrance. It all fell in when I bought the house back in 1972, bought the property and things. But yeah, there's a hill mine on my property, and there's a lot of hill mines around it if you just know where they're at. I know where a lot of them are, but
I remember Gene Zimmerman they had a mine, next to where that exercise place near the state police.
oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I did, by the OSPTA.
Yeah.
I just bought the property that adjoins OSPTA, and Peggy Rock told me that there was a small coal mine.
Yeah, Gene Zimmerman used to mine.
Up the hill,
He'd go
yeah.
in there with a
Now-
flat car.
This one here, if I took the time and to go up to research,
Hey Don, do you want to give me your email address?
the property, it pretty well tells you where it's at. It tells you who owned the property. So in 1857, if I look up and see along 10 Mile Creek in Franklin, and then it tells who owns the adjoining property. Now I have a couple of old Greene County maps. I have one from 1864 and one from 1905, one from 1914. Someday I need to sit down and look on the map up through there and see if I can identify those properties, and I could probably pretty well locate where this mine was. But I've never done it yet. Something else always comes up. So,
Now,
Wait.
isn't the new lamp that you were given, it doesn't have a big battery?
oh, there's a new lamp out now. I have one that's really not an official one. It's only this part here, and it probably has one of these
LED,
LED lights and stuff.
so it doesn't have that cord
Yeah, so
battery.
it doesn't have a cord, doesn't have a battery, it's just this part on your hat. The last time I went in the mine was the first time I ever wore one. But this here is my actual gear that I wore for 17 years of the boss. And so, anybody wants to run up and down the hall, I'll put this on here.
Turn around and tell us what's on here.
This in here is a methane detector that detects, like the flame safety lamp, but it's a digital job. And, it's got a meter on it, and it'll tell you what the methane is. This this back here is an anemometer. An anemometer measures air velocity. So if I opened those two doors there and the air was coming through here, I would hold this up for a minute and then I would take the reading. So if it said 100 revolutions, then I would measure that entry. And if it was 100 square feet, 100 times 100, 10,000, yeah, that would tell me how many cubic feet of air per minute is coming through there. So underground, as a boss, I had to take air measurements, all the returns, every day when I got to the work site, and then when the shift was over, I would take air, and I had to go outside and record those, and that way they kept a record, and if there was a drastic change between my readings and somebody else's, they knew there was something wrong. Sometimes if there was a major fall someplace in a mine or a stopping got knocked out on the fan house, they had what they called water gauges, and they sort of, if the water gauge would change drastically, they knew there's something happened in the mine someplace to cause that. So they'd have to go investigate, see what really caused it. I have a couple water gauges someplace.
Tell them about your sounding stick.
Oh, a sounding stick.
Up on your picture.
Yeah. The sounding stick, everybody thought that's just a cane for an old man like me. Anyhow, and they don't even really use them too much anymore, but we were required to carry this. And if the boss didn't have his sounding stick, they said nasty things to you. Anyhow, whenever the roof's all bolted up to here, and you took a cutout, now that's unbolted. You're not allowed to walk under unsupported roof. But when I first started in, we set jacks and used air-powered stoping hammers to drill the holes and stuff. So before you could set a jack, you had to test the roof. And you did that by putting your hand up there like this. Not like that. Well, because you're going to hit the roof. And if you put your fingers out there and you ain't paying attention, you might. So if you put your hand here, it'll go. So you put your hand on the roof and you tap the roof lightly, and you're feeling for a drummy sound or a vibration. If you don't feel anything, then you hit it a little harder, same thing. And then if you didn't feel nothing, then you'd hit it real hard, and you'd say, well, this is pretty good top. And then you could go set your jacks. And we set jacks on a pattern of 3 8-ton jacks with 3 more 8-ton jacks, and then an 8-ton and an 8-ton. That was one cut of coal. Then you could go in and use a stoping hammer, drill your holes, and put roof bolts in the pattern of the jacks. Everywhere a jack was, then you could take all your jacks out. Now this is when I first started in the mine. But you had to really be careful too when you took the jack out, because you put pressure on the roof with these jacks. A lot of guys would be careless and they'd go up and trip the hydraulic jack, and maybe they didn't pay attention. Well, even though the roof bolts are in there, it might not have been supporting all the roof. And so sometimes the guy would, it was pretty rare. Normally, whenever you got it bolted up, you didn't have to, but it's things you learned after you was in there a while. Later on, they come in with big machines and they press a button and the jacks went up, and you didn't need to sound the roof. And normally too, whenever you did, when the operator was cutting, if he heard a drummy sound, he'd tell us, hey, the roof's bad. Well, you didn't have to sound it. He already told you it's bad. So you had to exercise a little more caution setting jacks and things.
Tell us about your collection of belt buckles.
My collection of belt buckles, yeah. Right now, I think I have about 112 different Consolidation Coal Company belt buckles in my collection. I've probably got another couple hundred other ones from different coal mines. I got belt buckles from all of the local coal mines around. And then I got hard hat stickers, which is on my hat. The law requires you to have so many square inches of reflective material on your hat when I started in the mine. And that's so if you're walking in the dark, somebody's up there and if he's standing there with his light out, you're still going to see him. You'll see that reflective sticker. So people got into collecting those stickers. I got 34,000 in my collection, different ones, besides a bunch of extra ones. And so if a vendor came that sold something to the coal mines, like drill bits or something, he better have some stickers, because them guys wouldn't allow him in the office and things. So it was a major thing back in the 80s, all the way up into late 90s, and then it sort of fizzled out, and the coal company got on with it once people started putting them on their hats, so they started making production record stickers and safety stickers, and the coal companies were producing them. So I think I have 1,800 different Consol stickers, and I got friends that have over 3,000 different ones. So that's how many different stickers Consol's put out since they've been producing coal. I have something since Consol's about the only one mining coal around now. I went to an auction in West Virginia and I bought a set of books. And Consol put out a monthly magazine from 1918 to 1928 when the Depression hit. And it's called Consolidation Coal Company Employer and Employees Magazine. And in 1918, each district they have, like Maryland, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, would contribute to this magazine. And during World War I, they took a lot of the coal miners and took them off to war. So there's all kinds of photos in there of the guys in their military uniforms going to war, and it gives their name. Glenn Toothman called me up one day, and he says he heard that his grandfather's picture was in Consol's magazine. And I went through it, and sure enough, there it was. So, all of the photos from the different districts, most of the people were identified, unless there was a group of 30 or 40. There's pictures of babies in the little wash basins. You had pictures and water with a little baby sitting in it, tells you whose baby it was and what mine he worked at, and kids. I loaned them to another friend, and he was looking through 1922, and he, did you know Mel Remington? Roy Remington? You know Roy?
Yeah.
Okay, Mel's his older brother. And he was safety director at Shanapin Mine. Later he became a federal mine inspector, and he lives up by the Yawk Lake now in a cabin. Anyhow, I loaned the book to him, and when he was all excited, he found this picture of 3 little girls. One was laying on the sled, one was kneeling, and one was standing. It was his mother and her 2 sisters. that, she had grown up in, Bell, which is up by Somerset and stuff, is where she'd grown up and things. And then I had a friend that collects stickers and stuff for years, and then he got into all this stuff like I am and things. And I loaned it to him, and he had told me a story that his grandfather drove horse wagon over to War, West Virginia, and this was all the way down in southern West Virginia. And while he was there, somebody shot or made a loud, spooked the horse, threw him off the wagon, it ran over his head and killed him. The story was in the magazine. He found it. And he found all kind of relatives. So I had a vice president Consol come down to the house, and he couldn't believe these magazines. They're all hardbound, covered books that I bought. And he says Consol doesn't know who the CEO was of Consol at Depression time. I said, well, I'll tell you. And I brought the book out, and there it was. So Consol gave all their archives from Consol, all their maps and everything from, and all of the stuff they have to Pitt. So Pitt has all these old maps and documents that have survived. There was a major fire in New York one time at Consol's headquarters up there, and it burned up a lot of their archives and things. So he sort of said that he would like for me to loan him those books to Pitt so that the students could copy them. Well, I wasn't going to let the students go and fold those things open, and you can't hardly copy them, you know, when they're like round like this, and you take a picture of it, it gets distorted. You couldn't. Now they have scanners. We let a boy that wrote a story on Gray up by Somerset, and he came down and he went through the books. He knew what he was looking. But I had some books that no one else had. So he had a scanner wand, and he could just take it right over there and produce it. But to do what, I think the guy's name was Marshall?
Hunt. Marshall Hunt.
Yeah, Marshall. Yeah, his first name was Marshall. He wanted to go down that pit. Well, they don't care about coal mining and stuff and things. They're going to be sitting there drinking a Coke and stuff and slobbering. They don't have, you know. And then he suggested, well, if they couldn't get a good picture, they could take the book apart. And I thought to myself, I said, I'm going to have to think long and hard about that. I want Consol to have the information, but I don't think I'm going to let that happen. So I didn't let that happen. He's probably passed away, because that's been 10 years or
It's
more,
been a long time.
maybe longer, and things. So, yeah, all kinds of stuff happens when you have a collection of things. One of my goals was to go to the Antique Roadshow.
Yeah.
So, what day was it?
It was in July.
Huh?
It was in July, wasn't it?
I thought it was June 18th.
Oh, maybe it was June.
I think it was June 18th. Anyhow, I've been putting in to go to the road show for several years, and I wasn't being successful. It's a drawing. You put your name in, and they draw out, and they draw several thousand people. And they have different cities. So this year, the closest one was Baltimore. So I put in for Baltimore, then I called up my kids and told them, put in for the Antique Road Show and stuff, and a couple other people. And so it was April. In April, my daughter called me up and said, happy birthday. Well, my birthday is July 3rd. And she says, Jerry got tickets to the road show, you're going. So, in June 18th, well, June 17th, we went down and spent the night at their house in West Virginia. And he drove me to Baltimore, the Antique Roadshow, and no, I didn't make it.
You won't see him on TV.
I didn't see it on TV, but it was very highly organized. It was unbelievable how fast they fed people through there. You went through a gate and they put an armband on, and I said, I ain't getting a shot at one. Then they run you down and they have a person that does a preliminary, and you can get thrown out right there. If they see you have flea market stuff or something, they'd say, well, you don't have anything. And then they put you in a category. So they put me in the collectibles category, and I went and I took a bunch of posters that I have. To me, they're pretty rare. They're all hand done. They're not prints. They are the real, done by a well-known artist, many of them. And some of them are actually done by the coal miners that worked at Isabella Mine. And they did some really nice safety posters. Some of the posters are this big, the others are normal poster size and things. So the guy I got, and I've been watching Antiques Roadshow for years, and I kept saying, how come no coal miner ever gets on there? Well, they don't have a clue what a coal miner is and things and stuff. So he was wow and this and that, and one of the posters I had, World War II, it had Hitler and Hirohito and Mussolini on it, and saying, it was a wartime poster, we got to get rid of these guys, you know. And he said, oh, the colors are nice, this is good, it's great, but he said, it's a poor time for this subject matter.
She wants
With,
out.
the Jewish population and stuff and things. So I think that's partly why I didn't make it on there. But I took 6 posters. They didn't have to show that one. They could have showed the other ones. And then I took 6 of the smaller posters. And then I even took some other items. The guy that did the posters worked in the coal mine in Illinois back in the 20s. And later on he became an artist, and he was billed as a coal miner's artist. And in the 30s he did some covers for the UMWA journals. And then during World War II, he actually did a little cartoon about this side, and it says, Miner Jim Says, S-E-Z, West Virginia talk. And he did that every week. When the journal came out, I have all those journals back to 1938. I have all the cartoons that he ever did. But I have 2 cartoons that he did, and on the back of them it's presented to John L. Lewis, 1943, and it's the original artwork presented to John L. Lewis. I took those, and then he spent a lot of time with me, which was unusual, I thought. And I said, man, I'm going to make the poster guy, and I'm going to get on TV. But in the end, I didn't make it. I showed him, I said, well, this is a listed artist. And he said, well, he's not a very well-known artist. Well, he wasn't very well-known to you, but the coal mining community was. And he and another guy, I can't remember, it's like S-A-Z-O-O-N, something like that, was a sculptor. And Vachel Davis is the guy's name, that's the artist. And he done a painting, a large painting of a coal miner for the state of Illinois. And it hung in the state capitol for years. They don't know where that painting is. If you could ever find it, it's worth probably 6 or 7 figures. They don't know where the painting is. but he collaborated with another guy, and they made a statue from the painting. So
Really?
today, there's a full-size statue in front of the Illinois courthouse, state capitol, and in the state of Indiana, the statue's in front of the state capitol there that this guy collaborated on and did. So those are some rare artifacts that I managed to pick up over time. These photos are all from Nemacolin Mine, the original photos. Bob Kluchek wrote a book on Nemacolin, and I knew Bob, and he loaned me some negatives years ago, and I reproduced what he loaned me. And I tried to buy these, and he said someday he'd have to find a home. Well, Bob had passed away, and so finally here, it's not been a year ago, I stopped by, and his wife is still living. She's 86 years old, Toby Korchak. And when I was a kid, she's only 7 years older than me, but when I was a kid, she was Dr. Gray, who was the company doctor at Nemacolin Mine, nurse practitioner. So when I'd go there, she pulled down my pants and give me a shot for poison ivy. I always remind her of that. And so while I was over there talking, and I told her I was interested about the photos, she said she wasn't ready to let them go just yet. And so then she started telling me about her grass was this high, and the guy hadn't come, and she paid him, and he's not taking her calls and stuff. So when I went home, I said, oh, and her yard goes like this over in Nemacolin. I got four-wheel drive, but it's such a wide cut. So I loaded my mower up. I didn't call her and tell her, so I go over and I scalped her yard.
Scout.
I got it all mowed, and it looked like windrows and stuff. I'm there about 45 minutes, and I'm coming out around the bank, and here she comes, down through the yard in her bare feet. She's just a little woman. I heard him shut the tractor off. I was afraid she'd slip and go under the mower or something. She was so excited. And so I mowed her grass for her and things. She wanted to pay me. I says, I don't want your money and stuff. Oh, she was insistent. And so she gave me a book of photos. And that was just, she gave me half a dozen more since.
Oh my.
So a couple of days after the grass had really died, I go back over with the mower and I blew it all into there. It took me about an hour and a half. I had the pickup truck clean full of grass. I hauled it away and dumped over the hill, made the yard look pretty. So she brings me out some more pictures. And so later on I mowed her grass again, but meanwhile she's trying to get a hold of the guy that's supposed to mow it, that she paid him some pretty good bucks, according to her, and he ain't coming. So I mowed it again and raked it. So now we hit July. Well, I didn't even mow the cemetery in July and things. And so it was like 6, 8 weeks. And finally the guy come mow the grass, so I don't have to mow the grass. So now we do, whenever she cooks something, she makes enough for an army, and we do Meals on Wheels and take her over lunch, and I go up to Menards, and I like those peaches that are canned and they're spiced, so we take her over a can of spice, and every time I go, she's got something she digs out she wants to give me. So that's how I got all of the photos, and There's hundreds of them. And they date back to 1918.
Well, that's great, Brice. Well, we're at 7 o'clock here, so I think we could go on all evening here. But this is fascinating, and we're gonna have to go out and see you guys.
You haven't been there.
No.
Oh, you've got to go.
Yeah.
Allow yourself time.
Yeah.
Lots of time.
Yep, give yourself lots of time. That's right.
Yes, I'm sure you'd be interested in our books. We have a lot of, not as many books as you have, but we have books.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Well, this is exactly what I was hoping for, Brice. Thank you very much.
Okay.